Hello guys, tonight we're going to slip quietly into the cold mist of early medieval Scandinavia. A place of fjords and forests, of heavy skies and quiet hearths. Not to raid, not to shout, but to listen, to observe, and to rest beside the fires of a Viking longhouse. In a time where daily life was simple, rhythmic, and far slower than the world you know. Before we begin, I'd love if you could leave a comment with your location and the time you're listening. I always find it so fascinating to imagine all of us, scattered across the map, yet sharing this small, sleepy moment together. So now, get cozy, let your shoulders loosen, find warmth under your blanket, or press your cheek into the pillow. Let your breath slow, deeper, and deeper still. Tonight, you're not in a city. You're not checking clocks or scrolling screens. You are somewhere else entirely. Tonight, you are in the Viking Age. The cold reaches you first. Not as something cruel, not the stabbing cold of winter wind across bare skin, but a gentler presence, a stillness, a hush that presses against your closed eyelids and lingers between the fibres of your woolen blanket. It is just before dawn, in the land that will one day be called Norway, but there is no Norway yet. Only your village, tucked on a slope near the fjord. The water lies not far from your door, black and flat, its rippling face catching the fading stars. You wake inside a longhouse. The ceiling above you curves gently, dark with soot, wooden beams crisscrossing like the ribs of a great whale. The air is heavy with the smell of smoke, dried herbs, damp wool, and the faint sweetness of peat ash. Embers in the central hearth still glow, orange and pulsing, their light flickering up the curved walls and casting tall, shifting shadows of tools and antlers and bundles of dried fish. Beside you, others still sleep. The longhouse is not a private place. There are no doors between rooms, no solitude. Family sleeps in clusters, the elderly wrapped in their furs, children curled together like foxes, and the dogs, half-wild things with shaggy coats, nestled at feet or pressed into corners. You do not speak, there's no need. The language of this moment is silence. You hear the quiet scrape of someone stirring at the far end of the house, likely your mother or your older sister. A rustle of linen, a body shifting against straw, a kettle soon to be set over the coals. Warmth is coming, but for now, you remain still. You take in the sounds, the pop of firewood, the occasional creak of the timber walls contracting in the morning chill, and somewhere distant, the croaking of ravens. Always the ravens, watching from the trees, those dark omened birds so deeply woven into the stories of the gods. You roll onto your side and pull your blanket higher. It is woven from undyed wool, scratchy but comforting. You remember the feel of the loom beneath your fingers when you helped make it, the slow, meditative rhythm of weaving. You remember how your grandmother showed you, patient and proud, her fingers calloused from decades of work. You are no longer a child, not quite yet an adult, but in this life, you are already needed, already contributing. Your days belong to your hands, and so does your future. Outside, the village stirs. You can almost hear it, the soft clatter of hooves as someone checks on the goats, the groaning of the barn doors pushed open, the low call of someone greeting the morning, not loud, just habit, a whisper of presence. Soon, you will rise, you'll feed the animals, haul water from the well, perhaps help with the brewing or mending, depending on what the day demands. But for now, you remain tucked into your spot beneath the firs. Your skin is cool, your body warm, your thoughts distant. This is a time of year when the days are short and the nights long, when the light, when it comes, is soft and pale like silver, never harsh. It spills slowly across the wooden floor, dust dancing within its rays. You will see it soon, creeping toward the hearth. There is no concept of hours here, no ticking clocks. Time is measured by tasks, by hunger, by how high the sun sits above the treetops. Morning is when the smoke starts to curl from the chimneys. Midday is when the dogs start to bark from the far fields. Evening is when the light dies and you begin the stories. But for now, you drift in this in-between. Not quite awake, not quite dreaming, just remembering. In this world, the gods live close. Odin, wandering in disguise, might pass by your threshold. Freya's cats might stalk your chickens. The land spirits live beneath the roots of trees and the bones of the hills. Ritual and myth are not things apart from life. They are woven into every action, every gesture. The longhouse groans once more. You open your eyes. A single thread of light shines through the roof smoke hole, above the hearth. The day has begun, and so has your story. The fire is being coaxed back to life. You sit up slowly, rubbing sleep from your eyes, your fingers stiff with cold. Across the hearth, your sister is crouched, blowing gently onto the embers. Her breath rises in pale clouds. The fire answers, flaring briefly, then settling into a steady orange glow. She adds more wood, thick, split logs from last season's chopping, and the room begins to warm. You wrap your blanket around your shoulders and rise barefoot onto the packed earth floor. Beneath you is a mixture of dirt and straw and old ash, not soft, but familiar. The soles of your feet have long since learned to live without shoes inside. Breakfast is not a grand affair. There is no feast, no table groaning under weight. There is instead a small pot hung over the flames, a thin porridge of barley flavoured with salt, sometimes honey when it is available, though today there is none. A bit of goat's milk, perhaps, a leftover scrap of dried fish from the night before. It is enough. It is not meant to excite. It is meant to fuel the body for the work ahead. You eat in silence, sitting near your brother. He is already dressed, tunic belted, hair braided loosely down his back. He will be carving today, he says, working on the handles for new tools. You nod, a small smile exchanged. The two of you are close in age, and closer still in thought. You share few words, but much understanding. After eating, the daily rhythm begins. You step outside, and at once the cold grips you again, sharper now. The air tastes of salt and pine. The sky is pale blue, nearly white, thin clouds drifting like fish bones across it. A pair of ravens circles overhead, and you pause to watch them. One lets out a long, low croak. You mutter something beneath your breath, not quite a prayer, more a greeting, just in case they are watching, just in case they are more than birds. You make your way down the small hill behind the house, past a low stone wall, and toward the animal pens. The goats bleat lazily at your approach, heads lifting. You scratch one behind the ears, then check the gate. Your breath mists as you work. The chores are familiar, almost meditative. You shovel straw, refresh the troughs, and scatter a handful of old cabbage leaves into the pen. Nearby, a woman, a neighbour, is spinning flax. She sits outside her doorway, drop spindle in hand, gently feeding the fibres between her fingers as she draws out a long, even thread. The spindle turns and turns, hanging from its weight, humming softly in the cold morning air. You nod in greeting. She nods back. You feel it again, the rhythm, the old rhythm, the one that governs every hour of this life. No bells ring, no orders barked, no sudden alarms, just the sun crawling higher, just the hands moving, day after day, with skill passed down through generations. By midday you return to the house, your arms aching slightly from the water jugs you carried. The fire is stronger now, warming the entire length of the hall. Smoke rises gently toward the central hole above. The air smells of stew, of pine and wool, and faintly of the damp moss still clinging to your shoes. The loom waits near the far end of the hall, a great upright frame of wood, with vertical threads, the warp, strung tight like the strings of an ancient harp. Your mother is already there, eyes narrowed in focus, her fingers darting like fish. She works a shuttle back and forth, adding the weft, knotting, tapping, tying. Each motion is a sentence in a language older than memory. You take your place beside her. She nods, quietly proud, and hands you your bundle of yarn. Wool dyed with crushed lichen and iron rust, a deep, earthy red. You begin, slowly, carefully, the motion familiar but requiring attention. Up, through, down, beat. Up, through, down, beat. The world narrows to the loom and its sounds, the occasional word exchanged, but mostly silence. You are not just weaving cloth, you are weaving story, weaving protection, weaving identity. You think, as you work, of the people who will wear what you make. Maybe your sister, when she is married and needs her wedding dress. Maybe your uncle, who sails in spring and returns with tails and scars. Maybe your child someday, if such a future comes. Outside, the light shifts. A breeze rustles the hanging herbs. Someone laughs in the distance. The dog pads over and lies across your feet, its body warm and still. You do not check the time. There is no time here. Only the work and the fire and the steady pulse of hands creating something from nothing. The loom still clicks behind you. The rhythm is steady, but your part is done for now. Your shoulders ache in a way that's not unpleasant. The kind of ache that comes from real work, familiar work. Your mother stays behind, her hands never pausing, her breath a soft hum as she weaves. You stand, stretch slowly, and make your way toward the far end of the longhouse. There, just beyond the threshold where the roof overhangs and the air grows colder, your brother sits, cross-legged, near the chopping block. Around him, curls of wood, scattered like shavings of bark after a storm. His tools are laid out in a careful line, a small axe, a curved blade, a chisel with a worn wooden handle. His face is set in quiet focus, brow furrowed not in tension but in thought. He does not look up when you approach. He doesn't need to. He knows the sound of your steps. You sit beside him. The cold of the stones beneath you seeps through your tunic. You tuck your hands under your arms and watch. He's working on a spoon today. Not a grand carving, not something for trade or offering. Just a spoon, a gift for your cousin's new child. Its bowl is already rounded, smooth as river rock. He shapes the handle now, shaving slow, deliberate curls away from the grain. There is a language to this, a conversation between wood and hand. Not every log will become what you want it to be. The birch has a mind of its own. It splits if you press too fast, warps if dried too quickly, rebels against poor tools. But your brother knows how to listen. You've watched him since you were small, sitting beside him while he carved fishing hooks, combs, and once even the hilt of a small knife that he gave you when you turned 12. He lets you hold the spoon. It's still damp with breath from the tree it once was. You run your finger along the edge, feeling the story there, each mark intentional, no motion wasted. You don't speak. He hands you a smaller block and a knife, just something to practice with, no need for perfection. And so you carve, not for use, not for beauty, just for the feel of it. The knife slices quietly through the grain, and the scent of fresh-cut wood rises. It is a clean, pale smell, like forest mornings and wet bark, a smell of making, of becoming. Around you, the village settles into its quiet rhythm. Children chase chickens in the mud between houses. A woman shakes out a sheepskin near the smokehouse. Two men pass by with nets slung over their shoulders, their boots wet from the shore. One of them greets you with a quiet nod. You return it. No rush, no need for more than what is enough. The sun has reached its highest point now, though you'd barely know it. The light is soft, filtered by a veil of high clouds. Shadows stretch long and faint along the ground. Somewhere in the woods, a hunting horn calls once, then falls silent. Your brother takes the finished spoon, runs his thumb over the grain and sets aside. Another done, another made, another small thing to gift, to keep, to use in the long winters. He begins again, this time a face, the beginnings of a small god figure, something he will tuck into the rafters later, or leave beside the well. You know better than to ask which god it is meant to be. Sometimes it's not foreknowing. You lean back against the wall, cradling your own scrap of carving, and let your eyes close for a moment. The wind hums low around the eaves. The smell of stew drifts faintly on the breeze. The dog barks once, a lazy sound. In this world, beauty is quiet. It is in the curve of a spoon, the line of a cloak's hem, the steady pulse of firelight on carved beams. You feel it settle into your bones, the stillness, the making, the memory that everything you touch has been touched before. That the bowl you eat from, the spindle you wind, the blade you sharpen, all were shaped by hands like yours, long before you. You feel time stretch, then blur, and the knife returns to wood, and the story continues. The air inside the longhouse is warmer now, fragrant with stew and smoke. You step back in, your hands still smelling of wood and sap. The hearth glows brighter than before, its flames rising with quiet confidence, casting amber light against the soot-dark walls. The stew pot bubbles gently, thick with barley, onion, and a piece of salted meat left over from the smoked stores. It's a familiar scent, both plain and deeply comforting, the sort that soaks into your memory and waits there. You sit cross-legged near the fire as others begin to gather. Your sister lowers a wooden ladle into the pot and hands out bowls, each one slightly different, all handmade, carved by someone you know. Yours has a small knotted pattern etched into its edge, almost worn smooth with use. You cradle it carefully in your hands. There's no ceremony to this meal, just the quiet murmur of voices, the clink of spoons, the sound of breathing and contentment. The conversation is soft, no shouting, no urgency. Stories drift like smoke, slow and winding. An elder speaks first, between mouthfuls. She's blind in one eye now, but her voice is clear and well used. She tells of her father's brother, who once met a draugr on a winter trail, a restless, half-dead thing that guarded a mound of stolen treasure. She pauses often, letting silence stretch between sentences like threads waiting to be pulled. No one interrupts. Children listen with wide eyes. Adults do not smile or mock. Here, stories are more than entertainment. They are memory. They are warning. They are part of the bones of the world. When she finishes, someone else offers a tale. Not so old, not so strange. Just a memory of a storm last spring, when the roof nearly flew off and the goats were found sheltering under the ox cart. Laughter follows, but it's quiet, even now. Nothing loud, nothing sharp. You share a small piece of your barley bread with one of the dogs, who licks your hand in thanks and curls up beside you. Its ribs show through the fur, but it is strong, lean. It lives the same life you do, humble, hard-working, and present in every moment. Your cousin, a boy only a few years younger than you, begins plucking a small harp near the edge of the hearth. His fingers fumble a little, but the tune is sweet. A lullaby, you think, or a travel song, one the sailors sing under their breath when rowing, the kind of melody that gets caught in your memory like a leaf snagged in a stream. You lean back against the wall, the rough timber pressing gently into your spine. Overhead, herbs hang in bunches, thyme, angelica, meadowsweet, their dried petals still releasing faint dusty perfumes when stirred by the warmth. Spider webs glint in the eaves. A cracked shield hangs nearby, long since retired, its leather straps rotted and useless, but its shape familiar. A quiet talisman of things endured. You think again of the gods, not as grand and distant, but as watchers, listeners. You imagine Freya with her cloak of feathers, perched somewhere unseen in the rafters. Odin, perhaps, as a bent old man, sitting beside the hearth, his one eye watching the way you hold your bowl. There is no fear in these thoughts, only the knowledge that they are never far. A gentle hum rises. Your mother has started a soft chant, not a song with words, just a tone, a pattern, repeated like weaving. The kind she hums when mending or boiling dye. Others join in almost without knowing. It's not loud, not even musical in the usual sense, but it calms something in your chest. You feel it all slow, the fires crackle, the breath of those around you, the ache in your hands from work. You are full now, not just with food but with presence, with belonging. Outside, the wind changes. You hear it hiss low against the thatch, but in here you are wrapped in heat, in voice, in the bones of wood and wool and smoke. This is the pause, the sacred middle of the day. Not wasted, not idle, just still. And deep within the stillness, you sense something old. The echo of footsteps that walked this floor long before you. The breath of ancestors in the smoke. The weight of time folding softly over your shoulders, like a cloak. And then someone begins to rise. The moment shifts, but you do not rush. You simply set your bowl down beside you and listen as the wind carries the last lines of the harp song into the quiet afternoon. The warmth of the hearth lingers on your skin as you step back into the chill. The sky has softened, not darkened, not yet, but taken on that pale grey stillness that comes with the long afternoons. It feels quieter outside now. The animals are fed, the the stories have been told, and the village settles again into work. You follow your sister toward the dye pits behind the house, where shallow wooden vats are half buried into the soil. This is her realm, the slow, careful art of colour. The work smells strong and earthy, but not unpleasant. It is the scent of crushed lichen, of fermented roots, of sheep's urine and ash and copper soaked in vinegar. Not all dyes are beautiful in their beginnings. Steam rises from one of the vats, barely visible in the cooling air. The cloth soaking inside has turned a rich blue, woad, most likely, harvested weeks earlier and left to ferment until the scent turned sharp and sour. Now it is ready. Your sister stirs it slowly with a long wooden paddle. The fabric billows in the water like a sea creature, its shape uncertain, its future taking colour. You crouch beside her, watching. She doesn't speak. Her focus is intense, but not tense. This is not something to be rushed. She pulls the cloth from the vat gently, lays it across a flat rock, and begins to rinse it with cold water from a clay jug. The blue will darken as it dries. At first it looks almost green, but with time and air it will deepen, like the evening sky after the sun has fled. Further down the path, a group of women sit with baskets of wool in their laps. Some card the raw fleece with paddles, teeth clenched as they pull the wool into order. Others twist the strands into yarn, their hands moving steadily, rhythmically. One of them is old, her face deeply lined, her back hunched with age, but her fingers are sure. You've seen her work through sickness, through mourning. She has spun more thread than you will ever wear. You sit with them for a time, your own bundle of carded wool in your lap. The drop spindle is light in your hand, a simple tool, a weighted stick with a sharp end but full of quiet magic. You let the wool feed through your fingers, twisting as the spindle drops, catching the fibres into a single strong line. Twist, draw, wind. Twist, draw, wind. Over and over. The rhythm carries your thoughts away. Not to war, not to fear, just to this moment and this yarn. The conversations here are soft, broken with laughter but always gentle. The kind of laughter that leans close, that shares warmth more than amusement. They speak of small things, a child's first word, a neighbour's chickens, the way the wind has shifted from east to north. You listen without needing to join. This is not a place where silence is questioned. Beside you, one of the younger girls hums an old tune. It's not the same as the one by the hearth, but it feels familiar. Perhaps a work song, passed down through too many mouths to remember. The sound settles over the group like a blanket. A few steps away, skeins of dyed wool hang from wooden beams, drying in the pale light. Reds from madder root, gold from birch leaves, grey-green from nettle, none of them bright. The colours of the north are never loud. But they are honest. They are the colours of stone, blood, sky, and moss, of long winters and quiet gods. You look down at your own thread. It is rough, uneven in places, but strong. A thread you might someday weave into a sleeve, a thread that might wrap a newborn, a thread that might line a burial shroud. You are reminded again, nothing here is wasted. Not time, not wool, not effort. Everything becomes something. Even now, as you work, the old woman beside you is threading yarn through a narrow heddle, preparing to make a braid that will edge a cloak. Her fingers do not shake. Her gaze is not dim. She sees what needs to be made, and she begins. The sky shifts again. A gull cries in the distance. The dog trots past, sniffing at a discarded bowl. Someone sings, faint and slow, a song in a language half forgotten. You finish your length of yarn, tie it off, and place it gently in your pouch. It is not much, but it is yours, a piece of the day that you helped shape. And when you rise, brushing bits of wool from your tunic, you feel it, that patient pride, the quiet power of having made something, the way the women of your people carry the world in their hands, without raising their voices, without asking to be seen. You walk back toward the house as the clouds thicken, and the wind carries the scent of evening fires already being lit. The air smells different now. As you walk toward the edge of the village, you catch the first hints of brine and kelp on the wind. The tide has turned. The gulls call louder. The low, slow creaking of timber drifts in from the shore, like the breath of the sea itself. The boats are coming back, not raiding ships, not long proud beasts with sails like teeth. These are the quiet vessels of daily life, smaller, round-bellied, familiar. They left this morning with baskets and nets, spears and patience. And now as the light thins and the sky leans toward grey, they return. You see them from the hill first. The boats bob just offshore, pulled steadily toward the strand by oar and current. You pause to watch. The sea is calm, not flat, but gentle, its voice low, whispering to itself in a language of waves and spray. The sun, veiled behind soft cloud, paints the water with a bruised silver. Shadows stretch long across the shore. You make your way down the path, your boots crunching over gravel and frost-hardened earth. The beach is scattered with driftwood, gull feathers, and seaweed coiled like sleeping serpents. Already figures move along the tide line, women with baskets, boys with rope, older men calling out instructions not sharply, but as reminders. The first boat grounds itself with a soft scrape. Two men leap into the shallows, boots sloshing as they guide the prow to rest. Inside, fish, coiled eels, a sack of clams, small shining mackerel that glisten even in the dim light. Nothing glorious, just food, just the sea's quiet gift, offered to those who wait. You help unload. The baskets are heavy, but you don't mind. The smell is strong, salt and slime and blood, but not unpleasant. It smells like survival, like knowledge, like something older than memory. One of the men gives you a grin as he wipes his brow with a sleeve. His hair is wet, his beard tangled with sea foam. He looks tired, but pleased. He nods toward the next boat, where a boy not much older than you stands holding a net. "First time pulling it solo," the man says quietly. "Didn't drop it once." You glance at the boy. He is trying not to smile, but the pride is there in his posture. You nod back. That's enough. Further down the beach, someone starts gutting fish on a broad, sea-smoothed rock. A girl hauls buckets of seawater to rinse the catch. A dog barks, darting in to steal a stray fish head before being chased off with a laughing shout. The gulls circle above, watching. Always watching. And beneath it all, the hush of the ocean. You crouch beside one of the boats and run your fingers along its hull. The wood is damp and cold, patched in places but solid. You remember helping to caulk it last summer with tar and sheep wool, hands blackened for days. You remember your father showing you how to read the grain of a plank, how to tell when wood was ready to bend. These boats aren't just built, they're tended, known, named. One is called Seal's Breath, another Quiet Sister, another simply Ash for the tree it came from. You linger at the water's edge as the work winds down. The sun has nearly vanished now, slipping behind the distant tree line like a quiet god retreating for sleep. The sky turns to ash and lavender, streaked faintly with pink. You breathe it in, deep, slow, cold in your chest, but clean. A gull lands nearby, eyes sharp, head tilted. It makes no sound. The tide tugs at the boats, but they're tied fast. You dip your fingers into the sea, just for a moment. It's colder than you expected. It reminds you how alive you are, how brief this day is, but how full. Behind you, someone calls your name. It's time to return. You rise, brushing sand from your hands, and glance once more at the boats, resting now, their bellies empty, their work done. They will sleep as you will sleep, and in the morning they will rise again, just like you. Night comes quietly here. Not like a curtain pulled fast across the sky, but like wool laid gently over a sleeping body. Slow, weighty, inevitable. It begins at the edges, a dimming of colour, a lengthening of shadows, a stillness in the birdsong. The world lowers its voice. By the time you reach the longhouse again, the stars are waking. A few, at first, pale dots that blink cautiously through the gauzy clouds, and then more, constellations you know like family, the ones you were taught to follow across sea and season, Frigg's spindle, Odin's wound, the hound star near the horizon. You pause to watch them form, one by one, in the darkening sky. Inside, the hearth is alive again. Its flames dance lower now, slower. Not the midday blaze of stew and laughter, but the soft tongues of fire meant for warmth and reflection. Around it, the family gathers without summons. It is simply what happens, as natural as breath. Tonight, there will be ritual. Not a feast, not a festival, nothing grand, just the daily offering. Your mother prepares it as she always does, without fuss, without ceremony. A small piece of barley bread, a drop of ale, a pinch of herbs. Simple things, but chosen with care. She places them on a carved wooden dish, old and darkened with time, its rim worn smooth by countless hands. You've seen it cracked and mended. It will outlast you. You follow as she steps outside, dish in hand. Others come too. Your father, your uncle, your cousin with the thick braid and the uneven gait. Even the youngest child in the house, still too small to speak in full sentences, is carried along, wrapped tight in a woolen sling. No one is made to come. They simply do. Outside, the cold has deepened. The grass crunches faintly beneath your boots, brittle with frost. Your breath rises in pale clouds. The village is quiet. Just the crackle of distant hearths, the bleat of a goat in its pen, the whisper of wind through bare trees. You reach the small altar behind the longhouse, a ring of stones, blackened with soot, ringed with ash and tiny bones. Not ominous, not frightening. This place has always been here, older than the building, older than the names. You feel it in your skin, the weight of history settling into your shoulders like a cloak. Your mother places the offering in the centre and kneels. The others do the same. You follow. There are no prayers spoken aloud. The gods do not need to be reminded who they are. But in your thoughts you name them anyway. Freya, for love and strength, for the gold in the harvest and the heat in your chest. Odin, for wisdom and memory, and for the roads you will walk alone. Thor, for protection, for the axe at the door and the sky above it. Frigg, for the warmth of the hearth and the quiet of peace. Njord, for the sea's mercy and the salt it leaves behind. Your mother lights the herbs. A thin ribbon of smoke curls upward, grey-blue in the darkness. The scent is sharp, juniper, pine resin, dried meadowsweet. It fills your lungs, settles behind your eyes, makes you feel as though the world has narrowed to this single breath. You don't know if the gods watch, but you act as if they do. That is enough. The flames catch the bread, the ale sizzles faintly as it hits the embers. The fire crackles once, then calms again. The night receives the offering without sound. You remain still for a while longer, kneeling in the frost, the smoke drifting around you. No one speaks. There is nothing more to say. Eventually, your father stands. You follow. As you walk back to the house, someone begins a low chant. Not a song, not quite, but a droning thread of tone, wordless and slow. It's meant to carry prayers without names, hopes without form. You hum with it under your breath. At the door of the longhouse you glance back. The smoke from the altar still rises, thin and straight, disappearing into the stars. Somewhere a raven cries, once, then gone. You step inside. The fire greets you. The warmth folds around you like memory. The longhouse is quieter now. The children have been settled beneath their furs, their breath soft and steady. Little islands of warmth in the half-dark. The hearth has been fed once more, not for cooking now, but for watching. The flames rise low and steady, giving off a quiet glow that flickers over the timbered walls. It paints shadows that dance without music. You sit by the wall, your back resting against one of the broad beams that hold the house like ribs. In your lap is a block of birch wood, pale, slightly curved. You run your fingers across its surface. It's cool to the touch, but dry, patient, waiting. Your knife is small, just a hand's length. The handle is carved with a knot design, smoothed by years of use. It belonged to your uncle once. Or was it your grandfather? The stories blur. It does not matter. The tool remains. You begin to carve. Not with haste, not with ambition, just with care. The tip of the blade dips into the surface of the wood. The first curl peels away, whispering as it falls to the dirt floor. Then another. And another. Time slows here. There is no rush, only the curve of your wrist, the measure of your breath, and the weight of the firelight behind your shoulder. You're not making anything large, just a spoon, or perhaps the beginnings of a comb, or a small toy, something to slip into the hand of your youngest sibling when the snow returns. A gift made not of gold or stone, but of time. That is enough. Across the room your father is working too. He sits cross-legged on a low stool, sanding down the handle of an axe with a scrap of leather and ash dust. His movements are slow, steady, deliberate, more rhythm than task. You remember watching him make that axe head last winter, hammering red-hot iron on the cold anvil until the snow steamed from his arms. It will be passed down, of course, like the knife, like the stories. Behind him, a woven curtain sways faintly in the breeze. It separates the sleeping area from the main hearth. Beyond it, you can hear the creak of furs, the rustle of bodies turning in sleep. A soft sigh, someone dreaming. You keep carving. The wood gives way beneath your hands, curl by curl, its shape emerging slowly. Your thoughts drift, not to war, not to glory, but to small things. To the sound of snow falling at night, when the world forgets to make noise. To the way your mother hums when she mends cloaks, not for anyone else, just for herself. To the shape of the fjord under moonlight, its edges softened by frost. There's comfort in this work. No urgency, no audience, just the soft patience of a thing taking form. The walls of the longhouse hold it all. The firelight, the sound of your carving, the low breathing of the sleeping, the scrape of your father's file. The house knows you. It has weathered storms, seen births, deaths, arguments, dances. It leans slightly in one corner, but it holds fast. The roof above you creaks gently, wind in the beams, not enough to worry over. The night presses close, but it does not intrude. You pause, flex your fingers, brush the wood shavings from your lap. Your work is not done, but you are content. You will return to it tomorrow, when the morning light filters through the thatch. Your father looks up, nods once, no need for words. He places the axe handle aside and begins to rub oil into the grain with his palms, slowly, like a prayer. The scent of linseed and ash drifts across the room. You breathe it in. It reminds you of late autumn, of preparation, of purpose. You place your carving beside you and stretch your legs. The fire hisses as a log shifts, sparks blinking into the dark like stars losing their way. Above, you hear a faint tapping, perhaps a mouse in the thatch, or the house settling into sleep like the rest of you. This moment is not remembered in sagas, but it is sacred, because it is real, because it is yours. The fire burns lower now, its flames sunk into coals, red and gold, soft and steady. You feel the heat of it still, even as your limbs begin to cool. The longhouse has quieted further, a hush deeper than silence, like the land itself is holding its breath. Your carving rests beside you, the knife tucked safely in its wrap of wool. You lie back, slowly, pulling a fur over your body. Beneath it, straw and hides and woven woolen cloth soften the hard ground. The scent is familiar, lanolin, smoke, earth. Your head sinks into a pillow stuffed with down and dried herbs, thyme for the breath, and angelica root to keep dark dreams away. Your mother placed it there the same way her mother once did. Your eyes grow heavy. But this part of the night belongs to something else now. To the space between the real and the remembered. To dreams. Here in the dark, sleep comes not as an escape, but as a journey. A quiet road you know by feel more than sight. In this place, dreams are not meaningless. They are watched, heard, shared. They are stories given in sleep, sometimes sent by the gods, sometimes by the dead, sometimes by parts of yourself you haven't yet met. Tonight, you dream of animals, not strange ones, not mythical, These are creatures you've known since childhood, not in cages or pictures, but in the flesh, with breath and heartbeat and voice. You stand in a misted forest, the trees tall and black, their limbs reaching like arms toward the fading sky. A fox watches you from a ledge of stone. Its fur is the colour of rust, its eyes black as pitch. It does not speak, but it does not run. It tilts its head. You follow. Through the trees, over rock and root, the ground is soft and padded with moss. Your feet leave no sound behind. The air smells of pine and snow melt and memory. The fox leads you to a clearing. There, seated beside a shallow pool, is a woman, older than time, wrapped in a fur-lined cloak of woven grey. Her face is carved with lines, not from sorrow, but from knowledge. She does not smile, but her eyes see you. She holds a bowl. She gestures for you to look. Inside, water, black and silver, its surface still. You lean over. At first you see nothing. Then you see a bear, huge, slow-moving, its head bowed, its shoulders rippling like hills. It walks through snow, alone yet at peace. You watch it dig into the frozen earth, pause, lie down, its breath mists in the air. You feel your own breath match it, deep, grounded. The woman speaks, but not aloud. Her voice is not a sound, it is a feeling. Be still. Let it come to you. You close your eyes, and you feel it, the presence of something vast and wordless inside you. Strength not from muscle, but from stillness, from silence that holds the world without effort. The bear is not you, but it walks beside you now, within you, always. You open your eyes, the woman is gone. The fox is gone, but you are not alone. You awaken slowly, gently, the dream fading not like a broken thought, but like smoke rising into the rafters. You lie in the longhouse again, wrapped in fur, the fire now just soft embers, and yet something lingers. You feel the echo of the forest, the knowing in the bear's eyes, the pull of something just beyond the veil of day. You sit up slightly, listening. You hear the breath of others around you, the creak of the beams, the soft coo of a nesting bird in the rafters. Your family dreams beside you, and perhaps they too walk through misted woods. Perhaps they too are meeting things they do not yet understand. In this house, dreams are not secrets. In the morning, someone may speak of theirs, or not. That is their choice. But either way, you will listen. Because dreams are a kind of truth, and tonight yours has given you something to carry. Morning doesn't arrive in haste here. It comes slowly, shyly, like a child slipping into the edge of a gathering. First, the longhouse glows with an unseen presence. Not the sun itself, not yet, but the pale reflection of it, brushing the walls with faint silver. The air shifts, the cold has softened. You are still beneath the firs when you sense the change. Your eyes open, not fully, not urgently, just enough to know that the night has passed. You listen. The sounds are different now. No longer the creaks of sleeping bodies or the whisper of embers, but movement. The first soft stirrings of the day's breath, a footfall on earth, a stretch. A low hum from your mother as she stokes the fire with practiced hands. You sit up slowly, pulling the fur aside. The chill touches your skin gently like a hand it doesn't wish to wake too suddenly. You breathe in. The smell of ashes, wool, and cool wood greets you. Familiar, clean, the scent of survival. Outside, a rooster calls once far off. The others begin to rise too, your cousin with her braid still tangled from sleep, rubbing her eyes. Your father already pulling on his boots with the quiet rhythm of habit. A few whispered greetings pass through the air, not loudly, no one rushes. There is time. There is always time, here. You step outside, cloak wrapped around your shoulders. The sky is the colour of pearl, streaked with pale pinks and soft grey, the first blush of light seeping through the eastern trees. The frost has returned during the night, kissing the grass and stones. Your breath clouds the air, but the cold is no longer biting, it feels clean. The village is beginning to stir. A woman draws water from the well, her bucket creaking. A man gathers kindling from a woodpile, stacking it with care. A child runs past chasing a dog with a stick. Smoke curls from rooftops like soft ribbons. The world is not loud, it simply resumes. You walk toward the edge of the village, where the land opens toward the fjord. The sky there is clearer, wider, the light breaking over the water like poured milk. You sit on a rock, its surface cold but smooth, and watch. This is your favourite part. Not the light itself, but the stillness it brings. The moment when night becomes day, and yet nothing has quite changed. The stars have not vanished entirely. They linger faintly behind the morning like memories that have not yet faded. You think of your dream again. The fox, the woman, the bear. You do not try to make sense of it, not now. That will come later, or not at all. For now you simply hold it close, like a warm stone in your palm. Behind you, the village breathes. Wood is split, fire is fed, children laugh, geese stir in their pens. A new day begins, not with fanfare, but with quiet return. You rise and walk back toward the longhouse. Your sister is already outside, combing her hair in the reflection of a basin. She nods. You nod back. That is enough. Inside, breakfast is simple. Barley porridge with dried berries, a bit of goat milk, warm and thick and grounding. You eat slowly, cradling the bowl in your hands. The walls glow with golden firelight, the smoke curling into the high beams. A raven calls outside, sharp and bright. There is comfort in this, not because it is easy, but because it is known. Every day here is different, and yet the same. Work shifts with the seasons, faces grow older, children become makers, but the bones of the life remain. Fire, breath, kin, earth, sky. You place your empty bowl beside the hearth. Your mother begins to braid her hair, twisting it with beads and bits of bone. A small ritual, a gesture of dignity, of presence. Today there will be more weaving, more carving, perhaps a story in the evening if the wind does not howl too loudly through the thatch. And tomorrow, another dawn like this one. This is not the Viking life of raiders and kings. This is the Viking life that endures, the one that hums through your blood, slow and ancient, the one shaped not by war but by rhythm, not by conquest but by care. You gather your things. The day waits. The air is still cool as you set out along the narrow footpath behind the longhouse. The sun is higher now, warm enough to melt the frost on the stones, though not yet strong enough to soften the earth beneath your boots. It crunches faintly beneath your steps, and you keep to the mossy edge where it's quieter, more yielding. The loom house is a little separate from the others. Not far, just beyond the goat pens and the oldest ash tree, the one bent nearly double from years of wind, but still its own place, as if the weaving of cloth belongs slightly outside the rest of the world. There's something sacred about it, not in the way of gods and altars, not loud or marked, but sacred like breath, sacred like the pulse in your wrist. You pass your cousin on the path. She's returning from the stream with wet hands and tangled hair, holding a bundle of freshly soaked flax. She nods, tired but content. She has been carding since before the sun rose, combing and untangling the fibres with fingers that carry small cuts along every joint. She will keep working. The loom house does not sleep when there is weaving to be done. The building is low, wide, made from stone and heavy timbers, its thatch laced thick to keep the weather out. The door hangs slightly askew, but it opens with the soft creak of a place well used. Inside it is dim. Not dark. The woven slats in the roof let in shafts of golden light that fall like quiet blessings across the space, but hushed. The air smells of sheep's wool, smoke and lanolin. Dust hangs in the sunbeams, dancing slowly, unbothered by time. Along the far wall stands the great upright loom. It is tall, taller than a man, and solid, its frame made from the trunks of birch trees, smoothed and blackened by years of oil and touch. Weighted walk threads hang from the beam, heavy with smooth stones wrapped in leather, each one swinging ever so slightly with the movement of air. You run your hand lightly across the weft already laid, rows of tight dyed yarn, some pale, some deep brown, one row faintly red with madder root. Your aunt sits nearby, her body still, but her hands in constant motion. She does not look up at first. Her focus is on the shuttle in her lap, wrapped with wool she spun last spring. "You're late," she says, though there's no sharpness in it. You sit beside her, pulling out your own spindle, and begin to twist the wool that waits in your basket. The thread forms slowly, a thin, deliberate line between fingers and weight, a dance of rhythm and balance. You've done this since childhood. Your fingers know the movement better than your mind does. Red, this time, she murmurs. For a wedding cloak. You nod. The weaving here is not just craft, it is story. Every thread a word, every colour a season. Patterns passed down from memory, not from paper. The diamond shapes that ward off hunger, the broken lines for storm and sea, the spirals for safe return. You remember being small, tracing those patterns on your mother's apron with your fingers, trying to find the meaning tucked inside. Now you know some of them by heart, not all. Some stories are not told until you're ready to carry them. Your aunt works the loom as if it breathes, beating the threads into place with the long sword-like beater, humming a low tune that drifts through the space like mist. You join her with your thread, and together the room fills with the soft click of shuttle, the faint creak of wood, and the whisper of wool becoming something more. Outside, a breeze pushes against the walls. You hear the goats bleat faintly, but inside it is steady. It is always steady, here. The weaving never ends. One cloak finished becomes another. One wall hanging becomes a baby's wrap. The wool is carded, spun, dyed, woven, won, mended, passed on. It wraps around generations, warm and quiet and necessary. This is how you hold a life together, not with metal, not with raids, but with cloth, with hands that do not rush, with thread that holds memory as surely as it holds warmth. You keep spinning. The wool slips through your fingers like soft river water, and the loom sings on. The sun is high now, though it doesn't glare. Its light has softened since spring began. It rests on your shoulders like a woolen shawl, warm but not heavy. Outside the loom house the day has stretched open, inviting pause, inviting breath. You step into the air, your arms tired from spinning, your palms warm and tinged faintly with lanolin. The smell of sunlit earth drifts up to meet you. Moss, damp bark, peat smoke, and the distant salt of the sea. You walk slowly back toward the longhouse. Along the way you pass others. Your brother and two cousins are bent over a net spread out between two stakes. One ties knots, another tests the weight with a stone sinker. Fishing season is coming. Soon the fjord will fill with silver flash, and hunger will be eased by effort. They nod as you pass. No words needed, not here. Silence is not emptiness, is understanding. Near the well, your mother and aunt are washing the roots of wild onions, their fingers red from cold water. A baby babbles nearby in a woven basket, waving fists at the sky. A pot of barley simmers over an open fire, watched by your eldest cousin, who stirs with one hand and shields the steam from her eyes with the other. She hums something tuneless. It's comforting all the same. Inside the longhouse, the air is thick with familiar warmth. The hearth fire burns low and steady now, coaxed carefully throughout the morning. Over it hangs a clay pot, steam rising in slow swirls that smell of herbs, boiled grains, and dried mushrooms. You can almost taste the salt in the air, not from the sea but from preserved meat, softened now by the heat of slow cooking. The table is low, carved with simple runes for luck, for bounty, for peace. The benches are smooth with use, warm from sun-soaked bodies and years of meals shared. You sit with your family as the food is ladled out, bowls of coarse barley stew dotted with greens, lifted from the garden that still wakes from its winter rest. Flatbread, round and dark from the fire, is passed from hand to hand. Goat cheese, sharp and crumbly, is cut with a dull iron knife and placed between fingers rough from rope and wool. There is laughter, low and easy, not loud, not forced. Someone makes a quiet joke about the shape of a carrot. Your younger cousin tries to mimic the goat's bleating and ends up with stew on her nose. Your uncle tells a story you've heard before, but no one minds. It grows a little each time, and you all let it. No one hurries. Midday is not for haste. It is for presence, for chewing slowly, for remembering things, for looking at the grain of wood beneath your bowl and feeling grateful that someone once carved it for you. The door to the longhouse is open. letting in a breeze that smells of grass and fire and life. The birds outside call to each other lazily. A hen pecks near the threshold, unaware of anything except what lies just beneath her feet. When the bowls are empty, someone pours warm water for washing. Hands are rinsed, breadcrumbs are brushed from laps. A few children slip outside to chase shadows. An old dog stretches beneath the bench and yawns so wide you can hear his jaw crack. You lean back and rest your hands on your knees. The heat from the hearth seeps into your bones, pleasant and slow. There is no feast, no guests, no cause for celebration, and yet this midday meal feels sacred. Because you are full, not just your belly but your chest, your ribs, the space behind your eyes that sometimes aches with worry. It is quiet now. You are warm, and you are safe, and you are surrounded by hands that work and mouths that smile and shoulders that bend when needed. You close your eyes for a moment and let it be. Let it all just be. The food, the fire, the sound of breath. This moment is a kind of ritual. It binds the morning to the afternoon, the work to the rest, the self to the others. And when you stand once more and gather the bowls to rinse, it is not a burden. It is part of the same pattern, like a thread on the loom, like a verse in a song passed from mouth to mouth. Outside, the sun tilts gently toward the west. Afternoon awaits, not loudly, just patiently. The light has changed again. It comes now from a different angle, slanting lower, casting long, gentle shadows along the grass and timbered walls. The sun no longer sits above you, but begins its quiet descent toward the distant hills. The warmth it gave at midday has softened, still pleasant, still kind, but edged now with the earliest hints of evening. You walk down the slope toward the waterline, toward the scent of pitch and salt and sawdust. The sound of the boat shed reaches you before the sight does. The measured knock of mallets, the steady rasp of a draw knife pulled along seasoned pine. Soft words between men who know each other so well they barely need them. You pass the small grove where the youngest trees have been left untouched, too slender for timber yet, but watched closely, loved with patience. One day they may form the ribs of a boat, or the walls of a home, or the upright frame of a new loom, but not yet. Everything here is given time. The boat shed is open on two sides, letting in sea breeze and light. It smells rich, of oil, tar, wool, smoke and seaweed. Familiar and grounding. At the centre of the space lies a boat in progress, its curved belly cradled on wooden braces. The planks are pinned with hand-forged nails, and along the edge, a man you've known since childhood smooths the surface with a crooked knife. You greet him with a quiet, "Hail," and he nods without stopping. There's no need for formality. The boat is more important than conversation. You find your own place on a nearby bench. Your tools are there. A small axe, a chisel, a bit of antler you've been shaping for days now. You pick it up and run your thumb along the groove you carved yesterday. It's clean. You'll deepen it now, just a little. The curve must be right. Carving is not about force, it's about listening, to the grain of the wood, to the curl of the blade, to the pause between strokes, where breath gathers and steadies. One wrong motion and the work is ruined, but if you move slowly, gently, if you let the wood tell you where to go, it rewards you. The others nearby are carving too. One works on a new tiller, etched with a simple knot pattern. Another is shaping a curved piece of ash, likely a spar for a sail. Even the children help, sorting pegs, sharpening stones, fetching bundles of scrap to keep the fire going for heating pitch. Every piece of a boat is touched by many hands, not out of necessity, but because it is the way of things. Shared work, shared story, shared sea. You glance down at your own carving. A handle, perhaps, for a small chest. You've decided to inscribe a wave pattern into it, like the ones you've seen on the old oars. Gentle arcs, rising and falling like breath. You don't know if you'll ever take it on a voyage, but even if it stays here, it will carry the sea inside it. You work until your shoulders ache, until the light stretches thin across the fjord and the gulls begin to gather on the rocks. The boat builder to your left wipes his brow and stands, rolling his shoulders with a grunt. Someone lights a torch in the corner, just for a little more time. Just to finish one more stroke. You run your fingers along the handle you've made. It's not finished, but it's good. It feels honest, like something made not in haste, but in care. Like something that will outlive you if treated well. You wrap it in cloth and tuck it into your satchel. Tomorrow you'll add the final polish. Maybe oil it with seal fat. For now it will rest. As you leave the shed, the scent of the sea reaches you again, stronger now that the wind has turned. The tide is coming in. The boat will rise with it soon. Perhaps in a few weeks it will touch open water for the first time. Or not. Maybe it waits longer. Maybe the next winter must pass. There is no hurry here. Nothing truly good is made in haste. You turn back for a moment, watching the figures still at work beneath the timbered roof. Silhouettes bent toward their craft, their world lit by flickering torchlight and the faint blush of the sinking sun. Then you walk slowly back toward the village. Your hands smell of pine, your hair holds the scent of wood smoke. Your spirit is quiet. The day is easing toward its last chapter, and you are ready to follow. The sky deepens above you. The blue has thickened, touched with streaks of rose and violet, and a few early stars blink shyly through the veil of twilight. The wind has calmed. The sea, too, has softened. Only the faint hush of waves curling against rock keeps you company as you walk slowly back to the longhouse. Your legs ache pleasantly, not tired but satisfied, from weaving, from spinning, from carving, from the full weight of a day lived well and lived slowly. Smoke curls from the rooftop chimney like a ribbon, a sign, a promise. You duck through the low doorway and step once more into the warm heart of the home. Inside, the world feels smaller, not constricted, just held, like cupped hands around a flame. The hearth burns brighter now, stoked higher with driftwood and dried peat. The flames crackle softly, licking the iron pot that hangs once again over the coals. The scent is different this time, mead and herbs, and a hint of honey, warming in a small side bowl. The benches are full now. Older faces have joined the circle. Uncles, neighbours, weather-worn elders with stories deep in their eyes. One leans heavily on a carved staff. Another wraps a fur closer to her shoulders, her grey braid lit copper by the firelight. This is their hour, the hour of twilight, when light and shadow mix, when memory walks more freely, when the breath of the gods stirs more gently between rafters. You find your place, as you always do, on the low stool, near the edge of the circle, but close enough to hear. A child sits at your feet, legs curled under her. She gnaws on a piece of dried apple, sticky-cheeked and wide-eyed. The old man with the staff begins to speak. His voice is low, not dramatic, not showy, just steady, like wind through pines, like waves against hulls. He tells of a voyage once made, long ago, across the Whale Road, to a shore of black sand and cold moons. He names the winds they followed, Coldwind, Sudleys, and the stars they watched, and the brother they left behind. His hand moves as he speaks, tracing the shapes of the tale into the air like writing without ink. The girl beside you does not blink, neither do you. You've heard this story before, and yet it is new each time. Because stories are not fixed, they breathe, they stretch and shift like sailcloth. They live in the space between word and ear, between memory and dream. The next story is gentler, a tale of the world tree Yggdrasil and the squirrel Ratatoska who runs from branch to root. A silly tale, perhaps, a child's tale, and yet the way your aunt tells it, with pauses, with smiles, with a quiet reverence, it becomes something more. You imagine the branches above your head, invisible but ever present, cradling all of this, your people, your home, your little life, in something vast and unseen. You sip warm mead from a shared wooden cup. It sweetens your tongue, loosens your limbs, your shoulders lower. You let your weight sink into the earth-packed floor. Let your fingers rest loosely on your knees. The fire crackles again. A pop, a shift, and the flames glow blue at the base where the heat runs deepest. A new story begins, this one older, slower. A story not meant for children, though they may hear it. A tale of a seeress, a vulva, who once stood on the edge of the fjord with raven feathers in her hair, seeing things that had not yet come. She speaks in the tale, her words sung in a half-tone chant. No one interrupts. The room quiets more. You watch the firelight flicker across the walls, dancing like runes half-written, half-erased. You don't know if the story is true. It doesn't matter. What matters is how it's told, how it feels, how it binds you here with these people on this night at this moment. The girl beside you leans her head against your leg, half asleep. Someone begins to braid a lock of their own hair, slowly, rhythmically, as if each twist holds a prayer. There are no clocks here, no urgency. The night arrives as it always has, not all at once, but gently, like smoke winding through the rafters, like the slow cooling of embers beneath stew pots, like breath easing into sleep. The final story comes from your grandfather. He speaks rarely, but tonight his voice breaks the hush. It is soft, not frail, just quiet, like a hand on your shoulder. He tells of his first carving. A spoon, clumsy and cracked. He still has it, keeps it near his bed. It reminds him of what matters most, not perfection, but beginning. The child at your feet is now asleep. So are two others. The room holds its breath as the final tale ends. The flames dip lower, shadows stretch, and without fanfare the room returns to silence. No one claps, no one moves quickly. A few rise to tend the fire, to fold sleeping skins over small bodies, to hum lullabies too faint to carry beyond the hearth. You sit quietly, watching the last tongues of flame curl into ash, and the stories, those soft ancient threads, linger in the air even as the room dims, even as your eyes grow heavy, even as the day comes to its slow, rightful close. The last of the fire dims, and in its place the night takes hold, not suddenly, but like a tide that has always known the shore was waiting. You stand now, slow and careful, your limbs heavy with warmth and the hush of storytelling. Your fingers tingle faintly from where they rested too long without motion, but there is no urgency, no reason to quicken your pace, because the world itself is winding down, not closing, but turning gently inward. Someone hands you a cloak, thick and lined with fur, and you drape it across your shoulders without words, stepping out into the night with others who rise in quiet agreement, drawn by the rhythm of evening, by the soft ancestral pull of ritual. The sky has cleared above you, clouds peeled back by coastal wind, leaving stars in their wake, stars sharp and still, scattered across the deep indigo like runes on dark cloth, ancient and waiting to be read. The air bites now, sharper than it was in the afternoon, but not cruelly so. It wakes you without shaking you, like a mother's hand on your back, steadying, guiding, reminding. You walk across the worn path toward the old stones, the sacred ones, the ones that have stood longer than the longhouse itself, half buried in moss and touched with frost, their faces carved with markings only the oldest can still name. No one speaks. There is no need. Ritual is not theatre here. It is breath. It is rhythm. It is woven into daily life like thread in linen. You carry a small offering in your hand, a few dried berries, a scrap of carved antler, a folded strand of wool you twisted yourself, and it fits your palm as if meant to, as if chosen not by you, but through you. You reach the stone circle. The earth feels different here, not sacred in a grand way, but in a quiet, weighty stillness, like the hush before snow, or the silence between waves. Someone begins a soft chant, wordless at first, then old syllables, perhaps Norse, perhaps older, perhaps something that has no name anymore, but still stirs the hairs on your arms as it spills from their lips like smoke. Others join, low and steady, and you feel your voice catch before it follows, not from fear, but from reverence, from the fragile beauty of being part of something older than yourself. You step forward and place your offering at the base of the central stone, not carefully, not dramatically, just with intention, with thought, with stillness. Others do the same, until the roots and rocks are dusted with small pieces of presence. Feathers, carved beads, slivers of honeycomb, shavings of bone, whatever was carried, whatever was meant. The chant fades, not ending, just becoming silence again. You remain a while, looking upward. There is a shape to the sky now, not a story exactly, but a sense, a feeling that the stars remember you, that they have always seen your village, your loom, your carving, your name. You imagine the gods, not towering and separate, but near and quiet, walking these paths with you, wearing shoes dusted by the same earth, their fingers smeared with the same clay and soot. Torch flares low to your left. It's time to return. No one hurries. You walk back as you came, your breath visible now, rising like prayer. Your feet remember the path without light, worn smooth by generations. The longhouse glows ahead, small but steady, like a ship's lantern on calm water. Inside, furs are drawn close, spaces are made, quiet murmurs drift like falling leaves. You find your spot again, roll yourself into the woolen wrap left for you, and lie down, facing the low embers, feeling their warmth on your cheek like the last memory of the sun. Above you, the stars remain, even behind the thatch. Around you, the night listens, and within you, something settles. Not sleep yet, but the shape of it, the promise of it, the beginning. The longhouse is still now, except for the occasional creak of timber, or the soft sigh of someone shifting beneath their furs, and the world outside has grown cold and wide and star-bright, but inside there is only warmth and shadow and the hush of bodies settled into rest. Your own breath has slowed without you noticing, pulled gently downward into sleep's quiet rhythm, though you have not yet crossed its threshold. Not quite. Not fully. A low voice murmurs near the door. The night watch, an elder who volunteered as he often does to keep the fire fed and the doorway watched while others sleep. It's not fear that keeps him there, but tradition, a thread of quiet duty carried down through winters, a simple truth. Someone must stay awake, someone must remember that the dark has its own story, its own slow rhythm and meaning. He hums softly, tunelessly, as he moves, lifting a small log to the hearth and setting it into the coals without a sound. A few sparks leap, glow, and vanish, and the fire pulses faintly, golden orange and deep blue at its heart, casting moving light across the rafters where bundles of herbs hang drying in the smoke. You lie still, eyes half open, not fully here, not fully gone, and that is when the dreams begin. Not the wild, bright ones of summer, not the tangled fever dreams of feasts or battle or gods in their fury, but the deep winter ones, cold-edged and slow-moving, shaped like memory and mist. They come not with colour but with texture, the feel of snow beneath your feet, the creak of a frozen lake, the wind across open sea before dawn, too dark to see the sail but not too dark to feel it rising behind you. In the dream, you are walking through forest. Each tree is taller than you remember, older, and their bark gleams silver under the starlight. They whisper as you pass, not in words, but in the rustle of branches, in the language of wind, and though you are alone, you do not feel alone. Something walks just ahead or just behind, not threatening, just present, watching, maybe guiding. You reach a clearing. In the middle is a ring of stones, much like the one from earlier, but here the snow has not fallen, and the moss glows faintly with frostlight. A figure stands at the edge, cloaked in wolf fur, their face hidden, but their presence known. Not a god, not a person, but something between, something remembered and imagined all at once. They raise a hand, not in greeting, not in warning, just a gesture, slow and still, like telling you to wait, to listen. So you do, and the silence that follows is so deep it hums in your chest. A silence older than language, a silence that says, all things return to earth, to see, to breathe. You awaken softly, though the dream has not ended, not fully. It lingers, as dreams do when they are rooted not in your mind but in the bones of your people, in the soil you walk upon, in the stories told not with words but with the slow lighting of a fire, or the placing of a hand on stone. The longhouse is unchanged, still warm, still quiet. The night watch sits near the door, sharpening a small knife, not for use, just for the comfort of motion. He looks up briefly, catches your gaze and nods once. Not surprised you stirred, not asking why, just a shared moment, a quiet acknowledgement that sleep, like all things, comes in its own time. You close your eyes again, and this time there is no resistance. You are not pulled under, but simply drift into a sleep woven from salt and wood smoke, from the lull of tide and the weight of wool, from stories told and stories waiting, from the breath of a child and the watchful stillness of the old. And through it all, the spirits pass. Not loudly, not to frighten, but gently, like deer between trees, like mist across water. They pause near the hearth, near your sleeping form, near the small carving tucked into your satchel, near the braid left half finished at your side. They do not stay, but they notice, and then they go. And you sleep on, unknowing, held. It begins not with light, but with cold, a subtle change in the air that reaches beneath the fur coverings and nudges your skin not unkindly, but clearly. A breath of dawn before the sky acknowledges it, a whisper of frost tracing the thatched roof above and creeping in gentle fingers through the narrow spaces between logs. You are not yet awake, but your body knows before your mind does that the night is passing, that the day waits just beyond the edge of sleep. When you do open your eyes, it's still dim. The fire has burned low, only pale coals now, their glow muted but steady, a memory of warmth rather than its source. Someone has stirred it recently, a sign of the night watch finishing his quiet work, folding the final watchful hours into rest, slipping away like the last shadow before sun touches the rim of the earth. All around you, breath clouds gently in the cold, slow exhalations, soft and even, the longhouse full of sleep, of dreams still held in the fragile spaces behind eyelids, of warmth and stories folded close like wool against the skin. You rise carefully, not out of duty, not hurried, but because the stillness of early light calls to something deep in you, a rhythm you cannot name, only follow. You wrap the wool tightly and step barefoot across the packed dirt floor, hardened slightly by the cold, but familiar underfoot. The door creaks open with a long exhale of cold air, and you step outside into a world that feels entirely changed. Not transformed, just quieter. More awake than the people who still sleep, more ancient than the paths your feet press into frost-lined grass. The sun is not yet visible, but the horizon glows faintly with pale silver, and the sky above is the colour of old bone. Soft, matte, colourless and full of promise. Your breath trails in front of you, and beneath it, frost crunches gently underfoot. This is the hour of ritual cleanse. Not grand, not ceremonial, just a quiet rite passed down in gesture and motion, in the way you walk toward the stream with a bowl carved by your grandfather's hand, in the way you let the cold seep into your skin without flinching, without resistance because it is part of life here. The sting of water, the ache of wind, the contrast between fire and snow. You kneel by the stream. Its edge is rimmed with a delicate shell of ice that cracks softly under your fingers as you break it, not roughly, but with a kind of reverence. The water beneath is impossibly clear, dark, reflective, still. You dip the bowl slowly, not to drink, not yet, but to wash, to press it to your face, to your neck, to your wrists, to offer the night back to the land it came from, to allow the cold to carry away whatever you do not need to bring into this day. It hurts, briefly. Then it doesn't. Then it cleanses. Others will follow, as they always do, one by one, quiet, thoughtful, alone but never lonely. It is not about being seen or even being pure. It is about showing up to the day in the old way, the way that says, I am part of this land, and it is part of me. When you rise, the sun's edge is visible, faint, still weak, but rising. A red-gold sliver above the hills, bathing the trees in a light that is not yet warm but alive, ancient, indifferent, and kind all at once. You walk back slowly. There is no rush. The longhouse still breathes gently behind you, furs rising and falling, the last of sleep still wrapping the younger ones and the old in dream shelter. The fire will need rebuilding. The breakfast stones will need heating. But for now, the return of the sun is enough. You pause before stepping back inside. Just for a breath, to let the morning air fill your chest, to let the thin, bright light find your skin, to remember that days are not earned but received, each one like water drawn from deep ground, shaped by time, carried by hand, given without promise, and yet still here in your bowl, in your breath, in the hush between waking and work. The day has begun, and you are ready for it, quietly, gently, as your people always have been. The longhouse welcomes you back, as if you never left, its breath slow and warm, the smell of ash and wool lingering in the still air, while the last embers glow faintly under the hearthstones. You move through the quiet with practiced ease, every motion shaped by rhythm more than thought, pulling the basket of kindling close, placing the small branches carefully into the cradle of coals, watching how they catch, first reluctant, then eager, a low hiss and soft crackle marking the slow return of flame to the centre of the home. You shield the new fire from the stray breeze sneaking beneath the door, letting your body become a wall, a windbreak, until the flame builds enough to stand on its own, and then you feed it again, a little thicker wood now, a little bolder heat, until the warmth begins to spread like a memory through the floor and the walls and the skins drawn over sleeping forms. Soon the first few stir, blinking in the firelight, stretching with the slow groan of joints that rested well, murmuring greetings without urgency, without chatter, just the soft acknowledgement that the world has turned and brought another morning with it. Someone hands you a heavy bowl of grain, coarse, milled by hand 2 days past, and you begin to stir water into it. Not too much, just enough for it to bind, forming a dense, damp dough that smells faintly sweet, like earth and summer, and the labour of threshing in warm fields. Nearby an iron pan is placed across the stones now warming fast from the hearth of the fire, and you shape the dough into flat rounds, pressing them gently, shaping them with calloused hands. Your movements slow, steady, almost meditative. The bread will bake quickly, the outer crust darkening just enough to crisp, the inner body staying soft and warm, a comfort against the chill that still clings to the morning air. The smell is immediate, familiar, and it draws more of the household awake, rising with soft steps and quiet greetings, some still half lost to dreams, others already tying their belts and pulling on fur-lined boots for the day ahead. Someone begins to hum, a low tune, wordless, perhaps older than the song it used to be, perhaps just something the mind sings when the hands are busy and the heart is quiet. Another voice joins it, softly, not in harmony exactly, but in companionship, and soon the rhythm of labour becomes its own music. The kneading, the flipping of bread on the pan, the sharpening of tools, the brushing of hair, the drawing of braids down long backs, each act a note in the morning's quiet song. Outside, the frost melts slowly where sunlight touches it, and chickens begin to murmur in their enclosure, stretching necks and blinking against the pale light. Someone opens the door and the scent of baking bread mingles with the cold earth, with sea air, with pine smoke, a smell that is not just this morning, but every morning before it, stretching backward into the past like footsteps pressed into frozen ground. You pass the bread around, no plates, no divisions, just torn halves, shared with gloved fingers and careful thanks. The butter is hard from the cold but sweet when it softens against the warm crust, and you eat with slow satisfaction, with the silence of a task done well, of a new day beginning not with ceremony, but with nourishment, warmth, and company. There is no rush here. The day will ask what it asks, mending nets, carving handles, gathering herbs, and you will answer, as your people always do, with steady hands, with patient motion, with words few and songs quiet. For now, the fire burns clean and high, the bread is warm in your stomach, and the longhouse hums with life like a great living animal, breathing in harmony with the land beyond its walls, and you are part of it. Not just in body, but in spirit. One thread in the cloth. one voice in the song. Later in the day, long after the morning's bread has been eaten and the fire's heat has softened the chill of the floorboards, a murmur spreads through the village like wind shifting through tall grass. Not urgent, but unmistakable. And soon, you too are drawn outside with quiet curiosity as the others gather near the edge of the clearing, where the path bends out of the forest. And there she is, the seer, returning at last from her journey to the neighbouring settlement across the fjord, her cloak heavy with frost and pine needles, her staff tapping the frozen earth as she walks with the slow and certain step of someone who measures time differently than the rest of us, not in days or tasks, but in dreams and signs and the movements of crows. Children watch her with wide, hushed eyes, their play momentarily forgotten, while the adults greet her with a mixture of deference and familiarity, knowing that, though she walks among them, she carries something older in her bones, something drawn from the deep places of the world, not magic exactly, but knowing, the kind that grows in silence and returns in visions. She nods to you as she passes, her gaze settling on you a moment longer than the others, not threatening, but seeing in a way that leaves you still inside, as if part of you has been gently pulled forward to the surface without your asking. Later, as the sun begins its slow descent, dragging long golden shadows across the roofs and the low stone fences, she speaks by the fire, not in a grand speech, not with ceremony or dramatic flair, but simply, as though she is recounting the weather or the growth of moss on a stone. She speaks of a dream she had while sleeping in the other longhouse, a dream of red sky and ravens, of a tree shedding silver leaves into dark water, and of a figure walking across the ice without breaking it. And though none of these things are immediately understood, everyone listens in stillness, because it is not the meaning that matters now, but the listening itself, the way a people hold their breath together in respect, in memory, in shared wonder. After her words fall quiet, the evening begins its return, and people drift into their smaller tasks once more, but everything feels slower now, softer, as if some invisible thread has been gently passed from one hand to another. And you too find yourself returning inside, where the fire is burning low again, steady, clean, and comforting. You sit beside your work from the day before, the spindle, the fibres, the half-finished braid of wool you had left coiled like a sleeping animal, and begin to spin once more, letting your fingers twist and pull and feed the strand with patient ease, the rhythm returning like breath, like tide, like a story told in motion rather than voice. Others work beside you now, someone repairing a cracked wooden cup, someone else weaving a net for spring fishing, a third slowly engraving runes into a stone to mark a coming birth. And all of it happens in the same silence, not empty, but full, filled with a warmth of togetherness, with a satisfaction of hands that know what they are doing, with a kind of peace that cannot be chased, only entered. And in this hour, as light fades and the longhouse becomes its own little world once more, protected from the outside dark, you feel the weight of time not as a burden, but as something grounding, as if your place here is part of something much larger, much older, and yet still unfolding. A thread in a tapestry being woven not just by you, but by all those who came before, and all those who will come after. Outside, the seer walks once more, slowly tracing her steps to the edge of the village, eyes turned skyward, mouth moving silently, as if naming the stars before they rise. Inside, the spinning continues, and the stories remain, in the hands, in the firelight, in the way your heart beats a little slower, a little deeper, warms not only by flame but by the presence of others spinning their threads beside you, in the quiet of another shared night. The fire crackles softly, its orange glow flickering across the faces gathered near the hearth, casting long shadows that dance like old spirits on the timbered walls, and you sit among them, feeling the steady warmth seep into your bones as the night deepens beyond the thick logs and thatch. The air inside is thick with the scent of smoked fish, pine resin, and the faint trace of herbs hung to dry, a mixture that feels as familiar and unchanging as the slow turning of the seasons themselves. And as your fingers move over the woven fabric beside you, threading new strands into the cloth, your thoughts drift to the countless hands that had done the same before you, to the steady rhythm of life here, not defined by conquest or war, but by the patient labour of everyday moments woven into something larger than any one person. Stories rise softly in the circle, voices low and steady, sharing tales of gods and giants, of heroes who once walked these lands, of ancestors who forged their lives in the cold and wind and sea. These stories are not grandiose or shouted, but told with care, with the weight of memory, carrying the voices of those long past into the present warmth, folding you into the lineage of those who came before. And as each tale flows into the next, you feel the pulse of time itself, an unbroken thread stretching back through centuries, through frozen winters and bright summers, through birth and death, and all the moments in between. And in this pulse there is comfort, a reminder that you are part of a story far larger than yourself. Outside, the wind whispers against the walls, a gentle song of pine and distant waves, and though the night is deep and wide, the longhouse feels like a haven, a place held safe by the hands and hearts of those within. The fire dims slowly now, its embers glowing soft and red, and one by one eyes grow heavy, bodies relax, breaths deepen, falling into the slow cadence of sleep. You lay your weaving aside, the threads resting like dreams yet to be born, and as your head touches the soft fur beneath you, your thoughts quiet, the voices of the past and present blending into a single soothing hum. You are held by firelight, by story, by the steady, unyielding rhythm of life here, and as sleep closes over you like a gentle cloak, you carry with you the weightless gift of belonging, rooted in earth and sky, in ice and flame, in the weaving of hands and hearts, in the quiet, enduring life of a people who find meaning, not in war cries, but in the simple, sacred acts of each day. And so you drift into dreams shaped by snow and sea, by song and silence, by the soft, steady pulse of a world turning slowly beneath endless stars. Good night, sleep well.